What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another brief chunk of notes for you today. This lecture should be pretty short and sweet, and it also corresponds, and I'm dropping it on the same day that I was talking about the Tuskegee Airmen, which this fits in nicely because most of the action that the Tuskegee Airmen saw during World War II was in the Italian campaign when bomber squadrons were going and bombing German and Italian targets, and the Tuskegee Airmen were flying in bomber escort missions trying to protect them. So Italy is one of the three main Axis powers, right? We had talked about that back when like the Nazis are coming to power. Actually, Hitler and then this guy over here, Benito Mussolini, were very close friends. And Hitler modeled a lot of his behavior. A lot of things he did, he looked at Italy had done it first. Mussolini had done it, was kind of the prototype dictator. And then Hitler models a lot of that behavior and kind of puts his own spin and twist on it. Now, we're way more familiar with Nazi Germany than we are with, fascist Italy for good reason. Germany is definitely like, even though they came around to fascism later, they're a much bigger power and they're a much larger like force to be reckoned with, I guess, and have a bigger impact on the world in this conflict. Germany just has a bigger economy. They're more well organized. The Germans are very meticulous as a people, and when you harness all that with Nazism, it became a very lethal, deadly thing. Mussolini he is a pretty bad dude in his own right, though. He came out of a time in post World War One Italy. There was a lot of chaos, kind of like the time Hitler rose to power, where the Italian people after World War One were not doing very well. Their economy was in shambles. There were political groups fighting back and forth, and he was the guy that said, "I'm going to return us to glory again, and I will bring order to the chaos." One of his big things that he promised to the Italian people was, "I'll make the trains run on time," because things were just like notoriously kind of corrupt and the system was broken when he came in. And to his credit, he did get the trains running on time and he kind of brought order to all the chaos. The downside of him, he's an egomaniac. He thinks he's very awesome, and he is ruthless to his political opponents and kills many, many people for simply just disagreeing with him or seeing the political situation in slightly different terms. These guys are both pretty ruthless. So anyway, I think they both get what they deserve in the end, which we haven't got to that part of the story yet. But we're getting closer and closer to it. So most of the Italian campaign is really kind of a sideshow, or it's like a precursor to what we're going to hit next week, which is the D-Day invasion and then the final push into Germany to end the European theater of the war. So that's what's coming up. That's what gets featured in more movies and stuff. Why do we go to Italy first? Why didn't we just directly go to Germany? Is a pretty good question, I would say. So getting into our one and only slide of notes that we have here, the Italian campaign starts kind of late 1943. Remember, North Africa, which was the first place that the American army fights against the Nazis on ground, is in late 1942, early 1943. The next logical spot that we would go to is kind of moving north because now we have North Africa as a base of operations, and Italy is right across the Mediterranean Sea from North Africa. So we take out North Africa first. That's kind of a sideshow, a stepping stone too, where Hitler didn't have a very big army down there. We were able to outnumber them, and pretty quickly in a few months, series of battles, we're able to lock down all of North Africa. Going into Italy, this was Winston Churchill and FDR actually sit down and do a lot of planning and strategery and decision making. Stalin really wasn't included in it because the Soviets are communist, and there's a geographical barrier where we're very far apart from each other. He's not really included on these talks. Now, remember, Russia is like, they are hurting badly. They're fighting the bulk of the German army, and they are losing millions and millions of civilians and soldiers. When Stalin ends up hearing that Churchill and FDR decided to go to Italy first before directly striking at Germany, he's furious about it. But Churchill and FDR, their logic was, well, for one, we don't care that much about the Russians, even though they're our allies. They didn't publicly say that, but they were thinking that. And also, they felt like, hey, the Germans are a more serious force. They have a better military. They also have years of combat experience at this point. our guys have mostly just fought a little bit in North Africa. Italy would be like Churchill called it the soft underbelly of Europe. Like, let's go get another warm up fight. Let's get our guys some more practice and experience, and then they'll be ready for the following year. We'll do that push into Germany, which is what it is, how it is going to end up playing out. So the Italian campaign starts in kind of late 1943, and actually it's one of the last places where fighting is still going on at the very end of the war. Now, why would that happen? It was because America brings in a enormous army for the invasion of Italy. We basically take the bottom half of the peninsula, and then Hitler rushes in reinforcements. German soldiers actually do most of the fighting for the Axis powers in the Italian campaign. Um, this kind of collapses. Their government flip flops sides, and then we pull our army out later on in 1944, and we're getting it ready for the D-Day invasion and the push into Germany. So we essentially kind of like halfway through this campaign, we put it on pause and we pull most of our army out and just let it kind of chill. So kind of a bizarre strategy maybe, but get our soldiers experience and a lot of our guys, a lot of the guys that are at the D-Day invasion and in the final push into Germany first got experience in the Italian campaign. Now, another little interesting bit to this whole story, all right, this whole sideshow. So once America and Great Britain lands these big armies, we first take Sicily, the island right here off the boot of Italy, off the toe of the boot. Then we land and we capture Naples and start moving up to get Rome. When that happens, the Italian government freaks out. They basically overthrow Mussolini, say, "You're now the enemy. We're going to switch sides," because they realize the Allies are going to win the war and the Axis powers are going down, even though it's going to take a while. That's when Italy kind of gets the reputation of being flip floppers, not being able to make up their mind. So they switch teams to the Allies. They actually lock Mussolini up, put him in jail, and they're going to turn him over to the American and British armies. But before that can happen, Hitler, who actually genuinely liked Mussolini, which this puzzled a lot of Hitler's like closest generals and friends because most of them hated Mussolini. Anyway, Hitler launches a secret rescue mission where the German Condor Legion, these like elite paratroopers in the German army, come to a jailbreak. They get Mussolini out of an Italian prison and they fly him back to Germany. So pretty much for the rest of the war, Mussolini has lost his country, but he's going to be hanging out with Hitler and going to meetings until almost the bitter end. And then in the closing months of the war, Hitler finally like basically kicks him out of Germany and says, "I got nothing for you. You got to go back home." And then the end of the road for Mussolini is he and his mistress get caught in a northern Italian town at the very tail end of World War II. And he had been rotten and mean to many of his political opponents. Communists were on that list, that short list of people that he had very much persecuted. Anyway, a crowd of angry, kind of like anarchists and communists track him down where he's hiding out in a northern little Italian village, and they basically stone him to death. They drag him out into the town center and they hang his naked body up on meat hooks in the town square for everybody to see. If you're interested in seeing that, I didn't throw any up here, but you can probably track those down if you do a little bit of internet searching. So, not a very happy end for Mussolini, but he was kind of a rotten guy to begin with. So, I guess it was probably karma playing itself out and him getting what he deserves. And then next week, where we're finishing up here, this is kind of this whole campaign, if you want to put a date in, would be late 1943 to early 1944. Middle of the year in 1944 is where we're picking up next week, the D-Day invasion of June 6th, 1944. That's some really cool stuff. I've got some awesome movie clips to show you. So that's what's in store for next week. See ya.